I am Dr. Yakin Abdullah Habeeb, the author of the book It's Time for the Black Man's Revolution: How to Save Nigeria Now for Future Nigerians. In the 10th episode, I present a brief of chapters 13 and 14 dealing with infrastructural deficits, population growth versus economic growth. I now give a brief of chapter 15, which is titled The Urgent Need for a Turnaround. Based on all that has been said from the beginning of this book, it is clear that the country is now faced with only two options. Either we do something right now about this critical situation, or our children will have no country to call theirs in the future. All that has been said thus far no doubt portrays a very saddening picture of our country. As gloomy as it appears, it is the inescapable reality. Unfortunately, government hates to hear this reality. Government wants to paint a rosy picture to avert any agitation and also to ensure successes of their various political parties in future elections. We are here not writing support or against any particular person, any party, or any particular government. We also did not set out merely to paint a gloomy picture of our own beloved country, just for the sake of doing so, or in order to score any cheap point against any interest or to discredit anybody or entity. Neither is this merely another cry of a wailer. Our aim, however, is to actually achieve a noble and patriotic goal to prompt us to act towards the prevention of the failure of the Nigeria of our country, Nigeria. Let's proceed by putting forward a similitude. When a person is sick and is to be genuinely treated, the nature and extent of the sickness must first be ascertained as clearly and promptly as possible in order to guide the treatment. In this case, any attempt to downplay the nature and extent of the ailment will be to the detriment of the patient. Poor diagnosis will lead to ineffective treatment and no good result can be expected. Nigeria, beyond all forms of doubt, is in a serious mess, and we are all getting our fair share of this mess as citizens. Worse still, we are further staring at a more dangerous situation for our future generation, and as such, it behoves all of us to realize the real nature and extent of the mess that we are into and the danger facing us. As it is not an individual challenge, but a collective one, we need to call our attention to the situation, as this is the only way a societal move towards a remedy can be initiated. This is the only way available to the people, who are the center of the nations and states. States exist for the service of the people, and the people make up the nations. The act of understating or overstating the fact of issues is called stereotyping and propaganda, which are the ways and the business of the media, regimes, and politicians, while the act of turning the other cheek on obvious sociopolitical reality is called political correctness, which is the order in government. The people, on the other hand, have no business and should have no business in media stereotypes, propaganda, and political correctness. All this will only further enslave the people. For while stereotypes help the media to maintain patronage, it disorientates the people. And while political correctness helps to consolidate a government regime, it tranquilizes the people away from the factual realities of socio-political and economic life. The leaders and politicians in whose interest anybody may seek to be politically correct and in no way in the same shoe with the people. These are people, especially in the Nigerian context, that educate their children abroad, get medical attention abroad, shop abroad, invest abroad, and have their retirement estates abroad. As such, they have no single stake in Nigeria. And so their own realities are far different from our own reality. Thus, we must say it as it is in order to share a common understanding of our common reality as a people, so as to discern what course of action is most appropriate and expected from us going forward. We as a people cannot continue like this, and neither should we allow the government to continue to maintain the status quo. It has been said amply that one cannot continue to do things in the same old way and expect a different result. That doesn't happen even in Nollywood. With the present situation and trend in Nigeria, if nothing seriously far-reaching, deep-rooted, and widespread is done, or at least initiated, and urgently for that matter, we can be sure that in the nearest future, there shall be no place where our children can call their country. Yes, there might be a territory, at least in the files of the United Nations, officially called Nigeria, with a worn-out, loosely bound army, given a mandate to enforce its authority. And all that will remain of our already degraded and feeble institutions can be imagined if we only look at the present crop of students who have been given to delinquencies and perversions, ranging from idleness, indiscipline, laziness, fun fear, and social engrossment, to the alarming ones like drug addiction, courtism, kidnapping, armed robbery, and exam malpractice. How will our children feed and survive? Treat, house, educate, and house themselves in the future with the present trend and rate of population growth, oil mono economy, huge foreign debt, poor infrastructure, economic dependency, low productivity, and inadequate local production? How will they handle their micro and macroeconomics in the face of poor education and an attendant lack of skills and resourcefulness in terms of science and lack of craftsmanship in terms of technology? How will the country's sovereignty survive the onslaught of hostile nations and greed imperialist governments who have already turned the country and the rest of the continent to their backyards if we still continue to depend on them for almost everything, including imports and loans? We ought to realize that these are being said against the backdrop of the fact that within the next 50 years' time from now, Nigeria's population will have doubled. We'll be dealing with a practically 400 million people whose lives and livelihood are hanging on hair trigger volatility of international crude oil price. If our crude oil had not even been exhausted by that time, time is running out for Nigeria. And we are in deep trouble if we don't act quickly to reverse the trend. There's no future for the so-called future leaders. They must stand up to chart a course of beneficial future for themselves. They must stop eating from the crumbs that drop from the tables of the elites. They must stop asking for less. They must stop mortgaging their future through the sale of their voting rights. They must stop buying jobs because it is only the children of the elites that are able to afford the price. They must ask for competency, not mediocrity. Real education for scientific knowledge that suit the fourth industrial revolution and not mere certificates. It is not too late for the old brigades like me to stand up to create opportunities for positive heritage and legacy for our children and children's children. And that is what this work intends to achieve. There's no person in his right senses or well-meaning Nigerian that will opine that we should continue to sit aloof and watch while continuing our lives in the old ways. So we practically have only two choices. Only two choices. We either start to do something about this now, or our children will have no country tomorrow. And the time to act is now. In the next episode, I will present chapter 16 of the book on the fatalistic illusions. You can obtain a copy of the book by clicking the link below. Thank you.